morning, everyone of my 0 followers. So this morning, I'm once again at the MSU library, and today I walked into the computer lab and there was plastic all over the computers, but I'm still here nonetheless. They seem to be doing construction upstairs, so don't mind all the banging, because banging was annoying. Anyways, on to the third to last chapter in Anarchism and Other Essays by Emma Goldman. Let's see what we have today. Today, we're going to be talking about women's suffrage. All right. Now 30 minutes of reading, huh? All right. We boast of the age of advancement, of science and progress. Is it not strange, then, that we still believe in fetish worship? True, our fetishes have different form and substance, yet in their power over the human mind, they are still as disastrous as were those of old. Our modern fetish is universal suffrage. Those who have not yet advanced, or that have not yet achieved that goal, fight bloody revolutions to obtain it, and those who have enjoyed its reign bring heavy sacrifice to the altar of this omnipotent deity. Woe to the heretic who dare question that divinity. Woman, even more than man, is a fetish worshiper, and though her idols may change, she is ever on her knees, holding up her hands, ever blind to the fact that her God has feet of clay. Thus, woman has been the greatest supporter of all deities from time immemorial. Thus, too, she has had to pay the price that only gods can exact: her freedom, her heart's blood, her very life. Nietzsche's memorable maxim, "When you go to women, take the whip along," is considered very brutal, yet Nietzsche expressed in one sentence the attitude of woman towards her gods. Religion, especially the Christian religion, has condemned woman to the life of an inferior, a slave. It has thwarted her nature and fettered her soul, yet the Christian religion has no greater supporter, none more devout than woman. Indeed, it is safe to say that religion would have long ceased to be a factor in the lives of the people if it were not for the support it receives from women. The most ardent church workers, the most tireless missionaries the world over are women, always sacrificing on the altar of the gods that have chained her spirit and enslaved her body. The insatiable monster, war, robs woman of all that is dear and precious to her. It exacts her brothers, lovers, sons, and in return gives her a life of loneliness and despair. She it is who instills love of conquest and power into her children. It is who whispers the glories of war into the ears of her little ones, and who rocks her baby to sleep with the tunes of trumpets and the noise of guns. It is woman who, too, crowns the victor of his return from the battlefield, yet it is woman who pays the highest price for this insatiable monster, war. Then there is the home. What a terrible fetish it is, how it saps the very life energy of woman, this modern prison with golden bars. Its shining aspect belinds woman to the price she would have to pay as wife, mother, and housekeeper. Yet woman clings tenaciously to the home, to the power that holds her in bondage. It may be said that because woman recognizes the awful toll she is made to pay for the church, state, and the home, she wants suffrage to set herself free. That may be true of the few. The majority of suffragists repudiate utterly such blasphemy. On the contrary, they insist always that it is woman's suffrage that will make her a better Christian and homekeeper, a staunch citizen of the state. Thus, suffrage is only a means of strengthening the omnipotence of the very gods that woman has served from time immemorial. What wonder, then, that she should be just as devout, just as zealous, just as prostrate before the new idol, woman suffrage. As of old, she endures persecution, imprisonment, torture, and all forms of condemnation with a smile on her face. As of old, the most enlightened even hope for a miracle from the 20th century deity, suffrage. Life, happiness, joy, freedom, independence, all that, and more is to spring from suffrage. In her blind devotion, woman does not see what people of intellect perceived 50 years ago, that suffrage is an evil, that it has only helped to enslave people, that it has but closed their eyes, that they may not see how craftily they were made to submit. Woman's demand for equal suffrage is based largely on the contention that women must have the equal right in all affairs of society. No one could possibly refute that if suffrage were a right. Alas, for the ignorance of the human mind, which can see a right in an imposition. Or is it not the most brutal imposition for one set of people to make laws that another set is coerced by force to obey? Yet woman clamors for that golden opportunity that has wrought so much misery in the world and robbed man of his integrity and self-reliance, an imposition which has thoroughly corrupted the people and made them absolute prey in the hands of unscrupulous politicians. They're coming closer. The poor, stupid, free American citizen. There's a lot of you out there. Free to starve, free to tramp the highways of this great country, with litter, I might add, lots of it. Oh, I'm gonna throw away my McDonald's out the window. Fuck you, people. Sorry. He enjoys universal suffrage, and by that right, he has forged chains about his limbs. The reward that he receives is stringent labor laws prohibiting the right of boycott, of picketing, in fact, of everything, except the right to be robbed of the fruits of his labor. Yet, all these disastrous results of the 20th century fetish have taught women nothing. But then, women will purify politics, we are assured. How applicable this is today. I'm still just blown away by Emma Goldman. Needless to say, I'm not opposed to woman suffrage on the conventional ground that she is not equal to it. I see neither physical, psychological, nor mental reasons why women should not have the equal right to vote with man. But that cannot possibly blind me to the absurd notion that woman will accomplish that wherein man has failed. If she would not make things worse, she certainly could not make them better. To assure, therefore, that she would succeed in purifying something which is not susceptible to purification is to credit her with supernatural powers. Since woman's greatest misfortune has been that she was looked upon as either angel or devil, her true salvation lies in being placed on earth, namely in being considered human, and therefore subject to all human follies and mistakes. Are we, then, to believe that two errors will make a right? Are we to assume that the poison already inherent in politics will be decreased if women were to enter the political arena? The most ardent suffragists could would hardly maintain such a folly. As a matter of fact, the most advanced students of universal suffrage have come to realize that all existing systems of political power are absurd and are completely inadequate to meet the pressing issues of life. This view is also borne out by a statement of one who is herself an ardent believer in women's suffrage, Dr. Helen L. Sumner. In her able work on equal suffrage, she says, in Colorado, we find that equal suffrage serves to show in the most striking way the essential rottenness and degrading character of the existing system. Unquote. Of course, Dr. Sumner has in mind a particular system of voting, but the same applies with equal force to the entire machinery of the representative system. With such a basis, it is difficult to understand how woman, as a political factor, would benefit herself or the rest of mankind. That's a really strong statement. But say our suffrage devotees look at the countries and states where female suffrage exists, see what woman has accomplished in Australia, New Zealand, Finland, the Scandinavian countries, and in our own 4 states, Idaho, Colorado, Wyoming, and Utah. I'm from Oregon and Montana. Maybe include those 2. Distance leads enchantment, or to quote a Polish formula, it is well where we were not. Thus, one would assume that these countries and states were unlike other countries and states, that they have greater freedom, greater social and economic equality, a finer appreciation of human life, deeper understanding of the great social struggle, and with all the vital questions it involves for the human race. The women of Australia and New Zealand can vote and help make the laws. Are the labor conditions better than they are in England, where the suffragists are making such a heroic struggle? Does there exist a great motherhood, happier and freer children than in England? Is woman there no longer considered a mere sex commodity? Has she emancipated herself from the puritanical double standard of morality of men and women? Certainly, none but the ordinary female stump politician will dare answer these questions in the affirmative. If that be so, it seems ridiculous to point to Australia and New Zealand as the mecca of equal suffrage accomplishments. On the other hand, it is a fact to those who know the real political conditions of Australia that politics have gagged labor by enunciating the most stringent labor laws, making strikes without the sanction of an arbitration committee a crime equal to treason. Not for a moment do I mean to imply that women's suffrage is responsible for the state of affairs. I do mean, however, that there is no reason to point to Australia as a wonder worker of women's accomplishments, since her influence has been unable to free labor from the thraldom of political bossism. Finland has given women equal suffrage, nay, even the right to sit in parliament. Has that helped to develop a greater heroism and intenser zeal than that of the women of Russia? Finland, like Russia, smarts under the terrible whip of the bloody Tsar. Where are the Finnish suffragists, Spinyordonovas, Finnurs, Breshkoviskas? I really apologize for butchering those. Where are the countless numbers of Finnish young girls who cheerfully go to Siberia for their cause? Finland is sadly in need of heroic liberators. Why has the ballot not created them? The only Finnish avenger of his people was a man, not a woman, and he used a more effective weapon than the ballot. As for our own states where women vote and which are constantly being pointed out as examples of marvels, what has been accomplished there through the ballot that women do not, to a large extent, enjoy in other states, or that they could not achieve through energetic efforts without the ballot. True, in the suffrage states, women are guaranteed equal rights to property, but of what avail is that right to the mass of women without property, the thousands of wage workers who live from hand to mouth? That equal suffrage did not and cannot affect their condition is admitted even by Dr. Summer, who certainly is in a position to know, as an ardent suffragist, and having been sent to Colorado by the Collegiate Equal Suffrage League of New York State to collect material in favor of suffrage, she would be the last to say anything derogatory. Yet we are informed that, quote, equal suffrage has but slightly affected the economic conditions of women, that women do not receive equal pay for equal work today still, and that though women in Colorado has enjoyed school suffrage since 1876, women teachers are paid less than in California. Unquote. On the other hand, Miss Summer fails to account for the fact that although women have had school suffrage for 34 years and equal suffrage since 1894, the census in Denver alone a few months ago disclosed the fact of 15,000 defective school children, and that too with mostly women in the educational department, and also notwithstanding that women in Colorado have passed the most stringent laws for child and animal protection. The women of Colorado have taken great interest to the state institutions for the care of dependent, defective, and delinquent children. What a horrible indictment against women's care and interest if one city has 15,000 defective children. What about the glory of women's suffrage, since it has failed utterly in the most important social issue, the child? And where is the superior sense of justice that woman was to bring into the political field? Where was it in 1903 when the mine owners waged a guerrilla war against the Western Miners Union, when General Bell established a reign of terror, pulling men out of bed at night, kidnapping them across the borderline, throwing them into bullpens, declaring to hell with the Constitution, the club is the Constitution? Where were the women politicians when? Where were the women politicians then? And why did they not exercise the power of their vote? But they did. They helped to defeat the most fair-minded and liberal man, Governor Waite. The latter had to make way for the tool of the mine kings, Governor Peabody, the enemy of labor, the Tsar of Colorado. Certainly, male suffrage could have done nothing worse. Granted, wherein then are the advantages of women and society from women's suffrage? The oft-repeated assertion that woman will purify politics is also but a myth. It is not borne out by the people who know the political conditions of Idaho, Colorado, Wyoming, and Utah. Women, essentially a purist, is naturally bigoted and relentless in her effort to make others as good as she thinks they ought to be. Thus, in Idaho, she has defranchised her sister of the street and declared all women of lewd character unfit to vote. Lewd not being interpreted, of course, as prostitution in marriage. Wow. It goes without saying that illegal prostitution and gambling have been prohibited. In this regard, the law must needs by... hold on. In this regard, the law must needs be of feminine gender. It always prohibits. Therein all laws are wonderful. They go no further, but their very tendencies open all the floodgates of hell. Prostitution and gambling have never done a more flourishing business than since the law has been set against them. This is a longer chapter. I apologize. apologize for the sound. Hopefully I'm reading loud enough for you. In Colorado, the Puritanism of women has expressed itself in a more drastic form. Men of notoriously unclean lives and men connected with saloons have been dropped from politics since women have the vote. Could Brother Comstock do more? Could all the Puritan fathers have done more? I wonder how many women realize the gravity of this would-be feat. I wonder if they understand that it is the very thing which, instead of elevating women, has made her a political spy, a contemptual pry into the private affairs of people, not so much for the good of the cause, but because, as a Colorado woman said, they like to get into houses they have never been in and find out all they can politically and otherwise. Yes, and into the human soul and its minutest nooks and crannies, for nothing satisfies the craving of most women so much as scandal. And when did she ever enjoy such opportunities as hers? The politicians? Notoriously unclean lives and men connected with the saloons. Certainly the lady vote gatherers cannot be accused of much sense in proportion, granting even that these busybodies can decide whose lives are clean enough for the eminently clean atmosphere. Politics, must it follow the saloon keepers belong to the same category? Unless it be American hypocrisy and bigotry so manifest in the principle of prohibition, which sanctions the spread of drunkenness among men and women of the rich class, yet keeps vigilant watch on the only place left to the poor man. If no other reason, woman's narrow and purest attitude toward life makes her a greater danger to liberty wherever she has political power. Man has long overcome the superstitions that still engulf woman. In the economic competitive field, man has been compelled to exercise efficiency, judgment, ability, and competency. He therefore had neither time nor inclination to measure everyone's morality with a puristic yardstick. In his political activities, too, he has not gone about blindfolded. He knows that quantity, not quality, is the material for the political grinding mill, and unless he is a sentimental reformer or an old fossil, he knows that politics can never be anything but a fucking swamp. I am a fucking. We shall continue despite all the sound, because no one can stop me. Women who are at all conversant with the process of politics know the nature of the beast. But in all their self-sufficiency and egotism, they make themselves believe that they have but to pet the beast, and he will become as gentle as a lamb, sweet and pure. As if women have not sold their votes, as if women politicians cannot be bought. If her body can be bought in return for material consideration, why not her vote? That it is being done in Colorado and in other states is not denied even by those in favor of women suffrage. As I have said before, women's narrow view of human affairs is not the only argument against her as a politician superior to man. There are others. Her lifelong economic partisanship has utterly blurred her conception of the meaning of equality. She clamors for equal rights with men, yet we learn that few women care to canvass in undesirable districts. How little equality means to them compared with the Russian women who face hell itself for their ideal. Woman demands the same rights as man, yet she is indignant that her presence does not strike him dead. He smokes, keeps his hat on, and does not jump from his seat like a flunky. These may be trivial things, but they are nonetheless a key to the nature of American suffragists. To be sure, their English sisters have outgrown these silly notions. They have shown themselves equal to the greatest demands of their character and power of endurance, all honor to the heroism and sturdiness of the English suffragists. Thanks to their energetic, aggressive methods, they have proved an inspiration to some of our own lifeless and spineless ladies. After all, the suffragists, too, are still lacking in appreciation of real equality. Else how is one to account for the tremendous, truly gigantic efforts set in motion by those valiant fighters for a wretched little bill which will benefit a handful of proprietied ladies with absolutely no provision for the vast mass of working women? True, as politicians, they must be opportunists, must take half measures if they cannot get all. But as intelligent and liberal women, they ought to realize that if the ballot is a weapon, the disinherited need it more than economically superior class, and that the latter already enjoy too much power by virtue of their economic superiority. The brilliant leader of the English suffragists, Mrs. Emmeline Pankhurst, herself admitted on her American lecture tour that there can be no equality between political superiors and inferiors. If so, how will the working women of England, already inferior economically to the ladies who are benefited by the Shackleton Bill, be able to work with their political superiors should the bill pass? It is not probable that the class of Annie Keeney, so full of zeal, devotion, and martyrdom, will be compelled to carry on their backs their female political bosses, even as they are carrying their economic masters. They will still have to do it. Where universal suffrage for men and women established in England, no matter what the workers do, they are made to pay always. Still, those who believe in the power of the vote show little sense of justice when they concern themselves not at all with those whom, as they claim, it might serve most. Pardon me. This is just a good example of all the noise women have to get through and not be distracted by. The American suffrage movement has been, until very recently, altogether a parlor affair, absolutely detached from the economic needs of the people. Thus, Susan B. Anthony, no doubt an exceptional type of woman, was not only indifferent but antagonistic to labor, nor did she hesitate to manifest her antagonism when in 1869 she advised women to take the places of striking printers in New York. I do not know whether her attitude had changed before her death. There are, of course, some suffragists who are affiliated with working women, the Women's Trade Union League, for instance, but there are a small minority, and their activities are essentially economic. The rest look upon toil as a just provision of Providence. What would become of the rich if not for the poor? What would become of these ideal parasitic ladies who squander more in a week than their victims earn in a year, if not for the 80 million wage workers? Equality. Who ever heard of such a thing? Few countries have produced such arrogance and snobbishness as America. Particularly, well, that's really true. Particularly, is this true of the American woman of the middle class? She not only considers herself the equal of man, but his superior, especially in her purity, goodness, and morality. Small wonder that the American suffragist claims for her vote the most miraculous powers. In her exalted conceit, she does not see how truly enslaved she is, not so much by man as by her own silly notions and traditions. Effing true. Suffrage can not ameliorate that sad fact. It can only accentuate it, as indeed it does. One of the great American women leaders claims that woman is entitled not only to equal pay, but that she ought to be legally entitled even to the pay of her husband. Failing to support her, he should be put in convict stripes and his earnings in prison be collected by his equal wife. Does not another brilliant exponent of the cause claim for woman that her vote will abolish the social evil which has been fought in vain by the collective efforts of the most illustrious minds the world over? It is indeed to be regretted that the alleged creator of the universe has already presented us with his wonderful scheme of things, else women's suffrage would surely enable women to outdo him completely. Nothing is so dangerous as the dissection of a fetish. If we have outlived the time which such hearsay was punishable by the stake, we have not outlived the narrow spirit of condemnation of those who dare differ with accepted notions. Therefore, I shall probably be put down as an opponent of women, but that cannot deter me from looking the question squarely in the face. I repeat what I have said in the beginning. I do not believe that woman will make politics worse, nor can I believe that she will make it better. If, then, she cannot improve on man's mistakes, why perpetuate the latter? History may be a compilation of lies. Nevertheless, well, it is. It's the winner writes history books, right? Nevertheless, it contains a few truths, and they are the only guide we have for the future. The history of the political activities of men proves that they have given him absolutely nothing that he could not have achieved in a more direct, less costly, and more lasting manner. As a matter of fact, every inch of ground he has gained has been through a constant fight, a ceaseless struggle for self-assertion, and not through suffrage. There is no reason whatever to assume that woman in her climb to emancipation has been or will be helped by the ballot. In the darkest of all countries, Russia, with her absolute despotism, woman has become man's equal, not through the ballot, but by her will to be and to do. Not only has she conquered for herself every avenue of learning and vocation, but she has won man's esteem, his respect, his comradeship. Aye, even more than that, she has gained the admiration, the respect of the whole world. That, too, not through suffrage, but by her wonderful heroism, her fortitude, her ability, willpower, and her endurance in her struggle for liberty. Where are the women of any suffrage, country, or state that can lay claim to such a victory? When we consider the accomplishments of women in America, we find also that something deeper and more powerful than suffrage has helped her in the march to emancipation. It is just 62 years ago since a handful of women at the Seneca Falls Convention set forth a few demands for their right to equal education with men and access to the various professions, trades, etc. What wonderful accomplishments! What wonderful triumphs! Who but the most ignorant dare speak of woman as a mere domestic drudge? Who dare suggest that this or that profession should not open to her? For over 60 years, she has molded a new atmosphere and a new life for herself. She has become a world power in every domain of human thought and activity. And all that without suffrage, without the right to make laws, without the privilege of becoming a judge, a jailer, or an executioner. Yes, I may be considered an enemy of woman, but I can help her see the light. I shall not complain. I shall not complain. You know why you shouldn't complain? Because you should take responsibility. Always. The misfortune of woman is not that she is unable to do the work of a man, but that she is wasting her life force to outdo him. With a tradition of centuries, which has left her physically incapable of keeping pace with him. Oh, I know some have succeeded, but at what cost? At what terrific cost? The import is not the kind of work woman does, but rather the quality of the work she furnishes. She can give suffrage or the ballot no new quality, nor can she receive anything from it that will enhance her own quality. Her development, her freedom, her independence must come from and through herself, first by asserting herself as a personality, and not as a sex commodity. Second, by refusing the right to anyone over her body, by refusing to bear children unless she wants them, by refusing to be a servant of God. The state, society, the husband, the family, by making her life simpler, but deeper and richer. That is, by trying to learn the meaning and substance of life and all its complexities, by freeing herself from the fear of public opinion and public condemnation. Only that, and not the ballot, will set women free, will make her a force hitherto unknown into the world, a force of real love, for peace, for harmony, a force of divine fire, of life-giving, a creator of free men and women. That was probably the most powerful essay I've read yet. The one I most definitely agree with, because, look, we all have to take responsibility for what we do in our lives. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, because I most certainly am not. But change all starts with the individual. You have to change yourself before you can change the world, because you have to lead by example. Just like Emma Goldman says, at the very end of this chapter, simplifying your life, breaking traditions that continually perpetuate these glass ceilings, these walls that separate us. You have to break them with your own force, but you have to be strong about it. And to be strong, you can't be afraid of other people's opinion of you. Yes, you're going to make enemies, but that's because people are afraid of your power. In fact, I've struggled my past 5 years at least of life trying to deal with women, trying to show them through example that they don't need designer clothes, makeup, fancy shoes, these excessive materials. They don't need any of this to be fulfilled, to have power. In fact, it gives you more power. It gives you more power to rely on yourself, on your personality. But that's the problem. A lot of people, especially women, are extremely self-conscious. I myself am self-conscious as well. But I face my self-consciousness. I face it right here, every day. Not every day is perfect. But it's a constant fight. I would like to empower you to fight for what you believe in by living through example. There's no right and wrong. There is, and there isn't. There's to be, and there is not to be. And you're the one who chooses every day. When women choose every day to reperpetuate the ideas that we must be one size, that we must be of one face, we must be of one length of hair, that we must be of one cookie cutter ideal. By putting on makeup, by wearing certain clothing, you're perpetuating the standard. I guess I would like to give a couple examples of how to simplify your life. For one, I very, very rarely buy new clothes. Most, if not 90% of my clothing, I buy used. And I do it in a variety of ways. There's a variety of ways to buy new clothing. In fact, these pants, yoga pants, used. Underwear, not so much, but most everything else, pretty much 90% of my possessions are used in one form or fashion, besides rock climbing gear. So I would encourage you to start there. And then from there, through your own personal research of how to simplify your life and make yourself healthier and better, because it's all about you. Don't think of other people and what they think about you. I get made fun of every day for my eating habits. I get picked on for being a strong woman by other women because they're afraid of me. And I don't apologize for it, because you don't have to. Stop apologizing for the things that you mean to do, things that you believe in, because you don't need to apologize. Don't. Stop apologizing. I'm sick of hearing people say sorry when they don't mean it. It's like when people overuse the word love. Say what you mean and stop being a hypocrite. If you believe in loving animals, stop eating them. If you believe in health, go outside, exercise, smell the trees, get past the cars, ride your bike. This has been a long video. I apologize, but thanks for sticking through.